guys, welcome to From the Beach to the Bar. My name is Ben Nadig. Sitting to my left is Jess Matsuda, and our lovely host always is Seiji Lopez. Today is the January 2025 episode. We're going to be talking about, surprise, wildfires. Wildfires in Los Angeles. We might get into a bunch of crying celebrities and how I have no sympathy for them whatsoever. But let's just get into it. We'll talk about what happens when a fire hits, regarding your car, regarding your house, regarding your body.
Okay, so as we all know, there's been fires down in LA, wildfires. A lot of people had to evacuate their homes and abandon their cars on the freeway because the fires were blocking, or even other people just leaving their cars on the freeway. So what happens to those cars when, they had to bulldoze over those cars because the fire trucks had to get through? So what happens to the property damage and taking care of fixing those cars?
Well, I think the last time I read that Newsom thinks that the total damage for all the fires is going to be either 50 or 70 billion. But obviously a lot of that's going to have to be covered by insurance. Hopefully the federal government helps out. There's a couple of competing things. As to your house, you obviously have your homeowner's insurance, and there shouldn't be any exclusions in that area. So we'll talk about that a little bit. When it comes to your car, obviously you're stuck in a situation where, I hope you're insured, because we have been running across a lot of people, economically, who have decided insurance is the first thing to go, which happens, and if that's the case, then you're screwed. But you do have to worry about, even with insurance, if somebody's going to allege it's an act of God or, something outside of control. I haven't seen that yet, but I anticipate in certain situations it will happen. But if your car is damaged by the bulldozer, the government entity is not going to be liable in that situation, and you are going to have to file a claim through your insurance.
Okay. And then some people, do they know, do you have to have certain things on your insurance?
No, you just have to have it paid. Obviously you hope your policy covers the damage of your car, but, not paid, you're not getting anything. It's going to be interesting to see what insurance companies value cars at, considering the number of cars they're probably going to have to replace. This is always something, and I say it's interesting, we'll see. This is something we're going to find out, a month, 2 months, 3 months down the road when these payouts start happening. And also, even if you do have an insurance policy, if you only have liability only, you're kind of screwed. Collision only, you're kind of screwed. You do have to have a comprehensive policy. You do have to have a policy that is going to fix your vehicle.
Ben, you got me?
Sorry, I was actually taking care of high maintenance. So if they don't swap information, what do you do in a situation like that?
So the idea is
chaos and running around.
Yeah, so you see a fire on the hill, you're grabbing your shit and you're getting in your car and you're getting out of there.
What happens? So when people are leaving and say they have to evacuate their house, they get hit or hit somebody, and they don't have enough time to exchange information. What can you do in that type of situation?
You grab the things that are important to you, your photos, your kids, your dogs, whatever. You jump in the car, you're about to pull out, somebody just runs by, nails you. And the fire's coming, so they're not even paying attention, they're going to keep on going.
Right.
Okay, assuming that their car still works.
Yeah.
First thing you want to do is get their license plate number. Okay. Second, make, model of the car, it's a Honda, 90s Honda Silver. Get as much information as you can. The odds are pretty good if they're fleeing so fast that they hit you, that the fire's pretty close. So the odds are pretty good that they're going to be slowed down later on. So maybe you catch up, you get more information. I'm going to use it. I'm going to try and find them down. There are services that attorneys use to track people like that down, but the more information you have, always the better. Can they allege there's an emergency, they were evacuating, so I drove like an asshole to get out of there? Yeah. But liability-wise, they're still going to be on the hook for it, in a situation where you can track them down. In a situation where a fire is coming, maybe you jump in the car and follow them. Just because they hit you and kept going doesn't necessarily mean that they're an asshole, even if they're driving like an asshole. Right. What it means is I want to get the fuck away from the fire. Yeah. So once they're the fuck away from the fire, they might stop and say, I apologize for hitting you. These are the, here's my information, go from there. Assume a person is a nice person until they show you they don't.
Right. Common mistakes do people make during evacuations that can lead to accidents?
Well, it's tough because what you're talking about, especially in this situation in LA, is you're talking about 100-mile-an-hour winds. I think I heard it described as a hurricane of fire. In a situation like that, I don't there's not a lot of room for mistakes. You need to go. You need to get out. The most common mistake I think people do is they stay too long.
Yeah.
You know, and I think the majority of people who pass, they just stay too long. The other thing people do is, you know, in that fight or flight moment, people get really selfish. And so the rules of the road don't apply. You know, like we talked about. You see somebody pulling out of their driveway and they're blocking you. You're like, fuck you. I'm not fucking getting on fire. You cut them off, you hit them. Hope that long term, those people make it right.
I am from Hawaii, and we have a lot of hurricanes. We have a lot of natural disasters, and it kind of sucks. But what Ben is saying is it's tough because you don't want to leave the house that you possibly grew up in. You have like 30 years of memories and memorabilia or whatever it is. And you have to take what you have, get out of there. So it's really tough because when you get that alert, they're saying you gotta go now.
Yeah.
So what you have to do is you literally, if you don't have a bag ready or whatever you have ready to go, you have to leave in like 10 minutes. So it's like you, your partner, your kids, whatever it is, you gotta go. You can't bring whatever you want to bring. So it's so like we heard a lot of things about wedding photos, like their kids' graduation, all these things. You can't replace that, but you gotta go. So it's something else like, hey, what would you take if this happened to you? You take the loved ones that you have with you. It's so tough to quantify what you would take in that situation. There was an article that I think it was LA Times posted. There were firemen that went to a house and they knew they couldn't save the house. So what they did was they saw photo albums.
Oh, I think I've seen that.
They saw photo albums and they grabbed those items because they knew they couldn't save the house, but they can save some kind of memories. So it's sad because they knew they couldn't save the house, but they wanted to save the memories that the house had. So they grabbed photo albums or whatever they had.
In a lot of disaster areas, like say the Midwest with tornadoes and in other places, like there are people who are used to crises like this. This is the first major fire they've had in the Palisades, and I don't know how long. And you're talking about, like, these are generational houses. You know, these houses are so fucking expensive. Nobody can afford them anymore. You know, and so you'll have somebody who's maybe third generation in the house. They don't want to leave the house for those reasons. And you do want to grab the memories, but what you see a lot of people are focused on shit. You know what I mean? Yeah. Things, you know, like, oh, I need my Rolex. Oh, I need my cash. Oh, I need this. The things you're going to miss are the photos. You know, I tell people, you know, if you're in a situation like that, digitize all your photos. You know, things about your grandparents, you know, anything you can put in an electronic format, do it.
So going off of like kind of like the little hit and run incidents of the fires, would they call them cops in that situation? Because I guess the cops' attention is all on the fire.
I mean, this is what I'll tell you is, and I probably shouldn't tell you this, but no, man. There's a fire tornado going on. Yeah. Don't call the cops. They got shit to do. Like, if you're injured to the point where you may die, all right, call the cops, you know. But if you have a soft tissue injury and your car drives, get the fuck out. Worry about it later. But the police are doing their job at that very moment. The last thing they need to do is respond to a fender bender unless it's something serious.
This might go into a little bit of crim, but I did see, like, because the cops' attention is on the fires, that a lot of people started raiding other places because they knew, like, the cops weren't gonna come.
I mean, Jess, what do you think? Like, to me, like, look,
it's fucking stupid. Here's my take on that. Your city that you're in is going through your city is fucking burning. And then you have people that are trying to loot people's houses that they had to evacuate because they're on fire. It's called comprehensive theft, it's called burglary, it's called robbery, it's called whatever it is that they're trying to steal, but it's just sad that people are trying to take advantage of someone else's misfortune. And we have a situation here where almost half the state of California is on fire. And you have people that are trying to loot houses that people had to abandon because they were on fire. Yes. They can be charged with some crimes.
Look, here's the situation. If you're gonna fucking loot a house while it's on fire, you deserve to burn.
So, for instance, you had an accident during the fire and you're sitting there for long periods of time. How does the fire factor into the car accident?
Here's the situation, and this is something that I think there's probably a lot of debate about. My advice to you is if you're in an accident, obviously exchange information. But if you guys can mutually agree to exchange information a couple of miles from the fire, I'd recommend that you do that. That would be my suggestion. But in a situation where you guys are sticking around and like, hey, say for instance, like they made your car inoperable, both cars are inoperable, you're screwed. I would make the argument in a personal injury setting that you causing my car to be inoperable caused me to stay near the fire. I'm now inhaling smoke. My lungs are being damaged. Potentially I'm exposed to chemicals in the air from the event. And I would say that this was a cause of the accident that you caused. So because I inherited these medical conditions from your negligence, I am going to sue you for that. And there is, there's obviously a separate argument you can make, but I think in that situation, you do have a good standing to say, but for your shitty driving, I would not be as fucked up as I am.
So there's a thing in the legal realm called an act of God. If there's a thing that you cannot foresee, you cannot predict, it's just something that happens, it's called an act of God. It would be hard to recover from because it's an act of God.
I think what you're trying to say is that there's an intervening event, but for a massive fire in the area, you wouldn't suffer the smoke damage. So the argument would be that the smoke damage did not come from the accident itself, but it came from the act of God that you were describing.
Thank you, man. Yes.
Fuck, you're pretty. I love you.
I see, Jess. I'm gonna ask you this. Okay. So during the fires, a lot of insurance companies were dropping coverages. Do you know why? It could be homeowners or even were they dropping car insurance?
It's called the moratorium.
Okay.
You see a new face. This is Ceci. She is the case manager extraordinaire. Jess has sort of tapped out because one of us did dry January and it wasn't him. So we're working through it. Ceci knows a lot and is very personal.
So during the fires, there was a lot of insurance companies that dropped their policies. So a lot of people didn't get even homeowners insurance on their home. You want to kind of go into why insurance companies would drop those policies?
Well, I think Ceci had a good take on it. I think, Ceci, why don't you explain, and then I'll just piggyback off what you said, and we'll go from there.
So in the past wildfires, a lot of insurance companies dropped. There's one in particular who's very popular, dropped millions or thousands of policies, homeowner policies, because there is a lot of claims. Remember, insurance companies, I always tell this to my clients, insurance companies' jobs is not to pay. They don't want to pay. They want to get the premium, but at the time of paying, they want to try to pay the least amount possible. And when they see there is a high risk of them losing money, they start canceling premiums or canceling policies, non-renewing them. And in the past fires, after those fires, a lot of insurance companies did that. They non-renewed and they canceled the policies. And therefore, when people went shopping for insurance, the prices had gone up because of all these other risks, all these other claims that they had from the past fires. And therefore, it became unaffordable for many people to be able to insure their homes. There are a lot of people out there that don't have homeowners insurance because they could not afford it. And now they're not insured with their home, but the state insurance commissioner made it to where if they had insurance last year, am I saying that right?
Yeah.
If they had insurance last year and it was a policy that was effective last year, that insurance company will cover for this fire and for the damages that were caused this time around to whoever did not have insurance because they couldn't afford it or because it was non-renewed for whatever reason. Insurance companies do that a lot. You make a claim and they make you non-insurable because, again, they don't want to pay. And that's when attorneys like Ben and Jess will come in and make them pay for damages that they have to pay for, because you're paying a premium for them to pay for your damages that were caused, in this case, fires. You know, the vehicles that people lost, if you didn't have full coverage insurance on there, like comprehensive and collision, then you only have liability, then you really don't have a claim. You really don't have anywhere you can recover from. However, many people don't know this. If you lost your vehicle in the fire and it was parked in your driveway, in your garage, your homeowners will cover it. A lot of people don't know that. If even when your vehicle is stolen, if it's stolen from your driveway and you don't have comprehensive coverage, your homeowner should cover for that. A lot of people don't know that. They think it's just auto. So those are type of claims. So if you lost your car in the fire and you didn't have full coverage, but your car was on your property, your homeowner should cover for that.
And one of the things, I guess, piggybacking off that, or one of the things is, it's an interesting contrast because you look in the state of Florida and you look at hurricanes and things like that, and then you look in the state of California and you see fires. In both situations, insurance companies are pulling out of those markets. The housing insurance market in Florida is terrible because, if you believe in global warming or not, there sure are a shit ton more hurricanes, and there's a lot more property damage. But you don't see the state of Florida stepping in that situation and saying, okay, we're going to protect our homeowners. We're going to make sure that these insurance companies have to stick around. In the state of California, it's a little different. They have an insurance commissioner who has the power to say, no, you have to stay. You cannot pull out. And when you have a market of over 30 million people, it's hard for an insurance company to say, oh, no, we're not going to service those people. What they are going to do, and the insurance commissioner does have control over this, but we'll see, is they are going to increase rates significantly. One of the issues is, and one of the things that we talked about, building off what Jess said earlier, about this idea of generational households. We were actually talking to a gentleman we know whose family grew up in Lahaina, which is on Maui, where they had the Lahaina fire. His family had owned the house so long they had paid it off. So, they didn't technically have a requirement to insure the house, and they didn't insure the house. So when it caught on fire, all of a sudden you're kind of screwed because you didn't have a policy. I'm sure we're going to see that same situation in California where people didn't have a policy. One of the benefits in California is that, and to be fair in Lahaina, is that the land itself is so valuable, you'll probably be made right. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to have to sell the land, in order to get your money. But another thing that we talk about too is you have to, when you initially buy that policy, say you bought the policy for a house in 1980, you said, oh, this house is worth 200 grand. So you have an insurance that pays 200 grand. As your house goes up in volume, you need to address that with your insurance company. You need to be able to say, oh, hey, the house is now valued at $500,000. So my policy needs to be $500,000. What do I need to do to raise my insurance up? These are some of the issues we're going to see happen in California, where the insurance companies are going to say, you only insured your house to this level, so this is the level we have to pay. One of the things I like to say is that Warren Buffett is probably the smartest investor that we've seen in this nation. One of the companies he owns is Geico. He owns an insurance company. And why does he own an insurance company? Because they make so much money off premiums and they don't want to pay it out. Warren's not going to invest in it if he thinks, oh, I'm going to have to pay billions and billions of dollars in premiums. Right. He's focused on, you pay me, what can I do to keep the money?
And does that go into effect on when people purchase bundles? Do you know how that affects when they also cancel those types of? Can they cancel those types of policy?
Well, it's bundling is a situation where they can say we no longer offer that product. So we'll give you your car insurance, but we don't do homeowners anymore. Or we're going to require a separate fire policy. One of the things that's great about Ceci and why we love having her in the office is she used to work in the insurance industry, so she knows a lot of these things. And she has, throughout her time with us, educated both of us on a lot of things. She's an incredibly smart woman, and you're seeing that today.
Well, thank you for that, but another thing is that a lot of these like houses that are in high risk do require to have you are required to have fire protection on top of your homeowner's insurance.
Okay. So due to the fires we've had, we talked about the victims and people who've been affected. We talked about insurance companies, and I kind of want to talk about the law firms and how can the victims or people discern between law firms being helpful, like genuinely, or they're just kind of trying to seek out for money because they see all these people who are in need.
Well, it's kind of hard, to discern it. I mean, one of the things, you have one of these big firms like, Morgan & Morgan calls themselves like the biggest law firm in the world, which is great. They care about the experience. In a situation where you're searching for a firm, honestly, in a situation where you're having wildfires on a regular basis, the odds are pretty good your local firm is going to be much more well-versed in how to litigate a fire, a wildfire case than somebody coming in. I'm not saying that the somebody coming in doesn't have a specialist in this area and they're going to try and do great, but the individual access, one of the things we pride ourselves on, we're here to help you out. We're here to fix the problem, not only your car, your body, but we're also here to get you paid. We're not here to come in and make money necessarily. The money, the expression I always use is the money will come, or the money comes second. We all know you're going to get paid. We want to make sure you're taken care of.
Right.
And I think one of the things you're going to see in this situation is a lot of the firms are going to come in, they're going to do work, and you see it in all the disasters. There was the oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico. There's the hurricanes in Florida. You will have a lot of national firms that'll come in and set up shop and try to get as many people as they can. But you want that individual attention. You want somebody who not only knows the area, knows the courts, knows how to interact with the opposing counsel, but also understands the area of law and focuses on that. I'm going to be honest, it's going to cost me business. Am I a wildfire guy? Fuck no. I would not trust myself with a wildfire case. I would refer somebody who I did feel comfortable with in a wildfire case. But me personally, I don't think it's right for me to go and do that type of case when I don't know enough about it in order to make it work.
Can I say something?
Yes.
I do think that people should use their research, do their own research, sometimes even before hiring an attorney. Although if an attorney is needed, hire the attorney. That's why they're attorneys, because they're, they went to school to be able to get you money. But of course, if any attorney gets you a check, they're going to charge you a fee from that. And sometimes you can avoid that by simply doing your own research. Like, you can apply for your own FEMA benefits. You could do your own application. If you get a check from FEMA, they might be charging you a fee from that check from FEMA. Also, if you got injured because of the wildfire and like the smoke inhalation, and now you have medical problems like asthma, your homeowner policy has medical payments. And sometimes people don't even know that they could have $200,000 in medical payments, and all you need to do is show a bill to your insurance company and they should be able to pay that out to you in a check just to you for you. And I mean, those are ways that you can get money from your insurance company. Also, anything you buy, save all the receipts. Anything you buy, like if you buy toilet paper, save that receipt, because the insurance company is supposed to reimburse you for that toilet paper.
One of the things you do when you hire an attorney is those are things we figure out. We look at your policy. We determine if you have medical payments. There are certain cases we have right now where the medical payments are so complex, it's taking us years to get the medical payments because of what the insurance companies are asking for. Yeah. I am a firm believer in what Ceci says, that if you can do it yourself and do it effectively, 100% do it. But in situations where it gets complicated, 100% hire an attorney. In a situation with us, we'll never take more than you. Like, it will always be, typically what I tell people is before litigation, it's a third, a third, a third. A third to you, a third to the providers, and a third to us.
But nobody takes more than the client.
100%.
I will fight for you for this.
Yes, and she does. But there are other firms, and look, Powell, Pato, whichever one it is, he says the stuff in his ads. He says that he won't take more than you. Most of the people in town won't take more than you because it's not the right thing to do. There are people who do, and that's one of the things you have to worry about. I don't know what Morgan's fee split is, so I can't tell you what they do. But there are firms that have no problem taking more than their clients. One of the benefits is that we don't. Here's how it works. In order to hit a certain number, you have to, like, say it's a $25,000 policy, you have to hit the sweet spot. So you have to get between like 16 to 20,000 meds, right? So you get that check for 25,000. What you do is you take that 16 to 20,000 meds, you cut it down to $8,000. Okay. And then you take your costs out, and then you work it out. Your costs are usually on a $25,000 policy, maybe anywhere from $3,000 to $1,000. And so you take that out, but you always try to keep it where medical gets $8,000, client gets $8,000, you get $8,000. So that's what you do.
What are some new goals or resolutions that we have as a firm, or you have as your firm?
Well, our first goal is that Seiji turns 21 on January 24th. So we're all excited about that. But we have spent the past 2 months really focusing on the growth. Over the past year, we have effectively, Ceci, would you say doubled or tripled our caseload?
I think we tripled our caseload.
Okay, so in the past, we'll say half year, we tripled our caseload. We're expanding into Arizona. We already have an office down there. Our phone's set up. We have our first employee. He's up here training right now as we speak. And so we're going to grow Arizona like we grew here. We're going to do it slow. We hired 3.5 of the best employees.
We're opening up a new firm in Arizona. Some people may wonder if you and Jess are going to be representing them from here. Or is there
No,
gonna be a new-
we'll actually, like I said, we do have an office down there. The law firm is going to be Matsuda, Nadig, and Van. Mike Van is a great guy. He's very experienced. He's an Arizona attorney, but he is not going to be the only attorney. Much to my wife's chagrin, because we've had a few conversations, we'll call it about it. I will be down there a couple of times a week. Jess will be down there a couple of times a week. Mike will be down there a couple of times a week. There will always be an attorney there to handle your cases. Your cases in Arizona will be handled by Arizona employees, and your attorneys down there will be us. All right, so I guess we're going to wrap up right now. Little guy had to tap out a little early. So look, if there is a fire situation, if there is an accident in a fire situation, if there's something that just causes you injury, reach out to us. Even if you just have questions, if you're like, look, didn't happen here, I was here, this happened, we will always direct you in an area to make sure you are taken care of. Our whole focus is to make sure that if you call, you're taken care of. Whether we make money off it or not, doesn't really matter. Guess what? There's enough money in this world that we're going to do all right. Our focus is on you and making sure that you're put in the best position to be taken care of. Be it fire, be it hurricane, be it tornado, car accident, slip and fall, whatever you need, call us. We'll take care of it.